Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Reality Realness with 3 S's. I'm your host here, Chantele and Francis, with my amazing co-host, Tanya. How are you doing today, Tanya?
I'm well. Just wanted to shout out friend of the show, friend of Reality Realness, everyone's favorite, Michelle Nash. Happy birthday.
Happy
Happy birthday.
birthday!
Doubtful that she's watching this, but for everyone out there that knows her and loves her, wish her a happy birthday today.
Absolutely. I did post a couple pictures of us on Instagram, so some Reality Realness peoples might see it and send her a little happy birthday along the way, which is amazing. So happy birthday, Michelle. Sorry that you won't be able to speak with us tonight about the challenge, but you're going to be doing something way more fun, I'm sure, than watching the finale. Whoa, but just kidding.
Yeah,
So
how dare? No, I'm just kidding.
No, I'm like, of course you don't have to be there for your birthday, but I can't believe it landed on the finale though of the challenge. Like we've been watching it for 5 months and she can't be there for the finale. It's so random.
Right?
So we are here to talk about the final 3 fantasy suites on other Michelle's season of The Bachelorette. So what were your just generalized overall thoughts of this episode?
So I actually really liked this Fantasy Suites episode. I think very opposite of my reaction to the Men Tell All, which I not famously said was one of the worst episodes of all time in the entire franchise, which I still stand by. This is maybe one of my favorite Fantasy Suite episodes in the entire franchise. Probably because there's actually real options and there was no self-eliminations and there was no nonsense. It was just like 3 dates, 3 overnights, and it was nice to see.
And 3 real potentials. Like kind of like you said, like it's like I enjoyed watching interactions because I like seeing how they get along. And like obviously, well, in my opinion, there's like one front runner, but like I can see that she does have very strong relationships with all the men. And it's just refreshing to see that it's not completely contrived and completely produced and you know what I mean? It's like they are selling us some narratives that I'm not really buying into, but for the most part, I do feel that she has a connection with these 3 people, and I was interested in seeing their dates. So agree with you. Hi, Jaquan. I haven't seen you in forever. How are you doing? And Charlene is here. Hello. So we start off this episode with some snaps of Mexico and Puerto Vallarta. And I actually was feeling kind of excited because I've been to all those places that they showed pictures of. Have you been over there to Puerto Vallarta?
I've been to Mexico once, but I was in Playa del Carmen and I was there for a conference. So the resort was absolutely gorgeous. I really loved it, but I can't
Which
say
resort
I really
did you stay at?
the whole experience. We were staying. It was newly built a couple of years ago, Hotel Ishkare, and it was like a 5-star resort. It's wild. This was like part of my old job. We went there for conference, so it was amazing, all inclusive, obviously, really fantastic service, great food, like beautiful resort. But when you go for a conference, you don't really get to like enjoy the amenities. Like you spend all of your time in conference rooms and you don't really get a chance to enjoy the resort in a way that you would if you were actually on vacation. But I really enjoyed my time there. So I would love to go back to Mexico for sure. It was really nice.
I mean, I love Mexico. I've been there a lot. And obviously, many of you know that I used to work as a flight attendant. And so, pretty much every other weekend, I was in Mexico to some capacity. And so, a couple of years ago, they were giving, like, for our Christmas parties, we used to have, the 12 days of giveaways. And so, people would get, like, I don't know, a Starbucks gift box. And, like, someone will get free gas for, like, $100 worth of gas, whatever. There's just a different giveaways each day. And so I won free week stay at an all resort in Puerto Vallarta. So I ended up like that was the last vacation I took before the world shut down. I actually was just looking because I was there this time 2 years ago,
Yeah.
I was in Puerto Vallarta on this free vacation. I was just starting to see some of the pictures pop up of like, do you remember this 2 years
Yeah.
ago? Before everything changed. So
What's
it was
your
nice.
recommended part of Mexico to visit as far as like resorts or like from your experience?
As far as I can tell, I mean, Cancun is super fun. Definitely it has like, where you stayed. It's beautiful over there. But I think that Puerto Vallarta might be a little bit higher end, maybe we'll say.
Okay.
It's just like maybe one step up on kind of poshness, we'll say. Definitely gorgeous there as well. The resort that I stayed at wasn't anything that exciting. It was called the Friendly Resort. It was a family resort, but like, what were we doing there? Drinking, eating, sleeping, and going down to the Melicon, which is like the strip on the boardwalk, and going hanging out over there. And then also Sayulita, so that's where they filmed Bachelor in Paradise. And I think that there was a few snapshots of Sayulita in that opening scene, and that is actually very close to Puerto Vallarta. So I actually have taken like the local city bus to Sayulita before, and that's about a 45 minutes local bus ride from Puerto Vallarta. So I'm a Puerto Vallarta girl.
Cool.
Obviously, I love everything Mexico and going there all the time. I've never been to Mexico City, so that's somewhere I would love to go visit. But I would go Puerto Vallarta over Cancun, but just like Cancun is just a little bit more commercial clubby.
For sure.
If that makes
Memories
sense.
of real world Cancun.
Exactly. Or I've never been to, what's it called? Where we used to all go from the hills.
Oh, Cabo?
SJD. Yes, Los Cabo. I've never been to Cabo as well. Another party city, but it's a little bit of a higher end party city.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, very
definitely
student
Cabo.
trip energy.
So studentship, but it's fancy and it's actually far away. Cancun is very close. We'll say it's 3.5 hours from Toronto, but it's over 5 hours to get to Cabo, and about 4.5 to get to Puerto Vallarta. So it's a little bit further away. Hi, Taboo. Thank you for being here. Hello, Tamika. Hello, everybody, for joining us. So now we just had a little bit of a reminisce fest about Mexico. We see Michelle here talking with Caitlin, and they're walking along the beach and having these conversations. And it was what I find it's interesting about it is that she's being praised for all three of these men saying that they're in love with them, or two of them anyways, being like, oh, that's good, okay, good, that's good that he said that he's in love with you. And like, the worry thing is about Nate and having had said anything yet. How do you feel about the fact that it's pushed so heavily that these men are supposed to say that they are in love with her in 3 weeks? Like, how do you feel about that?
I mean, I feel like that's always like it's such a flaw in the way that the show is structured because it is so formulaic that contestants that go on this that end up making it far tend to follow a certain pattern, right? Which is like on your first one-on-one, you reveal that you might have feelings for that person. And then in your next like deeper interaction, you say that you're falling in love with them. And then it culminates in you saying that you're in love with them. And it's very prescribed and it's very like game strategy, really. So I think especially as it pertains to, let's say, Nate specifically, someone who she's really like trying to draw this information out of. I watched the episode again just now as I was taking notes for us to record, and I thought to myself, he did say everything that she required him to say. He's just not saying it in a way that's so full of platitudes like someone like Brandon does, which is like almost like excessive, sharing of those feelings. And I think they both just have a different approach, but I think it's funny that they harp on this necessity for this to be drawn out when everyone's actually already said that to her or said it now. So it's not like it's missing. I just think it's not a declaration in the way that the show wants it to be. I don't think she even needs it to be like that, really.
Well, okay, we'll probably talk about this often, but I might as well bring it up now. Is that I find Brandon's confessions of love to Michelle to make me a little bit uncomfortable and to feel forced and fake, to be honest. Now, I know people, I do think that he cares for her, wants to be with her, like probably is falling in love with her, maybe even is in love with her. I'm not even saying that his feelings aren't true, but just to be like, my heart skips a beat every time I look at you. I fall and I can't, and I, I'm just like, nobody really talks like that. It doesn't sound grounded. It sounds like he's saying words and they're not landing, in my opinion. Like, we both have taken acting classes in our lifetime, and you could be saying like, you're beautiful and like I love waking up to you every morning and da, 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 and it doesn't mean anything unless you can feel what is going on. And I just don't feel like there's a connection with how he's feeling with all these flowery words that he's saying.
Yeah.
And I personally, if it were me, if I were Michelle, I wouldn't be into that because it just seems so sappy and fake to me. You know?
And I think I've learned over the years it's not my dominant love language, but I think for me that's quality time. But I think words of affirmation actually really do matter to me. I've learned. I didn't think that it was one, but I do now. And even as someone who's a words of affirmation person, it's too much for me. Like it's nice that he is so feeling. I think what a lot of the fandom is attaching themselves to is this, like, the shows are really trying to make it seem like Nate is a bad boy, and like I don't see that in his actions. Like he doesn't seem like a bad boy to me. Other than what? He has tattoos and
two nose rings. Like,
I don't think that he acts like a bad boy at all, but they're trying to create this tension there because probably it's so obvious that he has the most like immeasurable chemistry with Michelle, like especially after watching this, which we'll get to. Whereas like people are really latching onto this idea that Brandon represents this man that you don't have to pull feelings out of or like try and mold in some way. For me, I don't enjoy someone just saying all of these things, especially when they don't know each other that well. And like, how much could you really believe? It's like when someone
compliments. And what about her are you in love with? Like, you just want to be there when she falls. You want to hold her all night. You just want to kiss her and hold her, and your heart is fluttering. And like, it's just like, so what? Like, what does she do that is like something that you could see in your future wife? Not just saying like, I can see you as my future wife, but I love the way that you which allows me to be able to see you as my future wife. Like, it's all lip service to me. Yeah. And I'm just not buying any of it. And I do think that he likes her or loves her, whatever, but I'm not drawn to his delivery, and I don't feel like it to be vulgar, but makes her wet. Like, I just don't think she's that into it. I think it's nice, but like, and I think she likes the safety of knowing that he would do anything. But somebody, I think I was watching Dear Shandy, and they're talking about how if it was somebody that she didn't like, this would become on as feel like creepy and stalkerish, right?
Yeah, it would be off-putting. It would be Rick. It would be, like someone where you're like, okay, I can tell that you mean well. And we like Brandon. We like Brandon on this podcast. Like, we enjoy him and like have liked him throughout the season. But this episode really solidified the divide and approach between him and Nate. And I think one approach feels much more aligned than the other, and it's not Brandon's. It's not. Like, this is just not the right thing. Maybe Katie requires something like Brandon's offering. But I don't think that Michelle does. You know what I mean? If that makes sense.
Maybe Katie. I mean, it's just so not what I want. It's so funny.
I think it's funny that Caitlin said, because during this walk on the beach, they're like talking about each of the guys. And then Caitlin says, when Michelle's talking about Nate, she talks about how she has this fear that she could again be in a situation if he doesn't, share with her that he's ready for engagement or for the next steps, that she could be in another situation where she's falling for someone more than they're falling for her. And Caitlin says, really pay attention to those fears because I wish I had done that a little bit more, in reference to Sean, I guess. But the biggest difference between these two individuals is that Sean was openly jealous, openly like antagonistic towards other guys, very defensive. Nate is the total opposite of that. He's just laid back, he's confident, whatever he's feeling internally, he keeps there when he's amongst his competition, doesn't start drama, is just very direct and very real. So I don't think that those fears need to be as intense as they would have been in Caitlin's situation.
I totally like that. I got a little flag when she said that, and I was like, I really don't like that she's painting Nate in such a bad light, and like, oh, look up, could be a red flag, and it's like, no, Caitlin, this is as you said, a completely different situation, and so I definitely noticed that she said that, and I didn't feel it was warranted. I was like, I don't think this is good advice, Caitlin, necessarily. Like maybe if you said it a little bit more loosely, but it's just like to put up such a red flag when I really don't feel like Nate has actually done anything but thwart the producers wanting him to come off as a villain. Like that's all he's really done this whole season. And people are really buying into it, and people are just be like, oh, he's a bad boy. I can't believe that Michelle's not smart enough to realize that he's not good for her. And I'm like, she really likes being with this guy.
Yeah.
What's wrong with that? What's wrong with her following how she feels about being with this guy instead of what we are painting on Nate to be some sort of stereotype, or what our red flags are going off for, or it's all about us. It's not about their relationship and how she feels about him. And yeah, we're probably gonna talk about this over and over and over again because it was so obvious, but it's very frustrating. So Jaquan says, I wasn't able to watch the whole season, but from the clips I've seen on Bachelor Nation YouTube, I like Nate the most, but never being in love is the only thing. But you know what? There's so like Colton had never been in love. Colton never been in a relationship. Colton had never had a girlfriend. And people were like, he's the bachelor. Like, let him have like all these 25 women to be vying over him. And he's never even been in a relationship. So the fact that we're not even allowing Nate to have this be maybe it's his first one true love experience, and this is how it was meant to go for him. Like, why are we denying him having this love experience? And because he hasn't had his heart broken because he made a bad choice in the past, like, means that he can't be making this first good choice. So
totally. And we're taught that like people experience love, like all the media that we see, including the show, like makes it seem like, you know, by the time you're 28 or however old Nate is, you've experienced so much love in your life, and like you can know what that feels like. And it's like, actually, I don't know if that's realistic. Like when you do actually experience love, it does feel very different than everything else. And that's what contextualizes all your other experiences. So I don't think it's necessarily the norm that even people approaching 30 have experienced all this great love in their life. Like, I don't know that that's true. Maybe for some people it is, but like, you just don't know until you know. And I cannot believe like I'm sitting here defending a contestant on the show, like so much, but like, at least he's being realistic. He comes from a family where that's not expressed. He probably hasn't experienced that to this extent before. And whether that's clouded by the experience or not, I'm choosing to believe that he says, you know, he's very real about this. I'm choosing to believe that to be true based on the actions that we've seen. And I'm hoping the best for them. Because
absolutely. I mean, I don't want to eat my words here. Like if it's like after the final rose and they're sitting separated from each other on the couch, I'll be like, whoa.
Yeah.
Like I actually don't see that, but like I'd be terribly saddened because I really want them to be the love that they're experiencing to be real. I really do want that. So yeah, so I wrote down the same thing. Caitlin says to pay attention to those fears. I'm just like, quiet, Caitlin. Just don't put any more of those fears out there, because she's going to start be looking for all these red flags when they actually aren't there necessarily. Like, how does Nate make you feel? What does he like? How does he, when he looks into your eyes, what do you get from him? Like, all these nonverbal signals, I think, are way more important than him saying, I love you. You don't need to necessarily mean it. And I know they always say, like, oh, these words mean so much to me, and there's such I feel like if I say these words, it's because I mean it. Not really. People don't necessarily say it because they mean it. They say it because they're on a show and they're told to. So
Exactly.
anyways, so we see all the guys together. How do you feel about the new trope of all the final three living together as each of them one by one go on overnight dates with their girlfriend?
I hate it. I don't know why. Like, I mean, I know exactly why they're doing this because it's so awkward, but they're trying to like recapture the sheer madness that happened when this occurred during Peter's season, which was like, I think the first time recently that it was introduced. And we like, that was bonkers and highly entertaining, but like really like dark sided for them to do that. Cause like already, the premise of overnights and fantasy suites is a lot to wrap your mind around. If you're thinking, I'm dating this person, I know they're like spending the night with other people, and then it's probably best for the well-being of the contestants for them to not be together during that time. Like, just let them already like be in this like terrible psychological situation alone. But instead they try and like put them in this powder keg and try and get an explosion. And why I appreciate all of these three men so much is they acknowledge the awkwardness and did not stoop to any like low moments. They were just like, this is so awkward, to the point where Joe was just laughing. I was like, this is so real. Like, thank you. Like, we all feel that this is awkward, and how else could you possibly react? Really?
I totally was. I was like, this is so awkward. Like I was feeling their awkwardness, so I was happy when Joe like kind of just like let some of that out with a little bit of a laugh. And then he says, I think it was in a confessional or a voiceover, we went from bros to foes, and I guess the living in bilingual Canada French, like part French, like I'm thinking foe as an FAUX, and I'm like, oh, you wouldn't really say bros to foes with an X like that. And so like that's what I was thinking. And then I was like, oh, like FOE, like enemies. Got it. So you use that correctly, Joe. But I remember just being like, that's a weird way to use foe. But anyways, that's just coming from Canada. So Tisha does enter, and she kind of gives them, she wasn't really that warm, a little bit of a reprimanding me, like, well, you better like tell her how you feel, like you better like do this and do that. And I was kind of like, I wasn't really vibing personally with her delivery of how they're supposed to be acting on this date. But she does leave them a date card. Did you have any thoughts about this moment?
I was just wondering if this is like maybe, part of whatever she was going through with Zach was occurring here, because I feel like we also haven't seen a ton of her in a lot of these episodes. Like, I don't know if she had other engagements or things that she was also doing. I know she has a lot on the go, but even just like having Caitlin be the one walking on the beach and then Tayshia just delivering this message, and then I don't think we see either of them again through the entire episode, struck me as a little bit strange. So I wonder if there was maybe some overlap in some of the personal stuff that was going on, or maybe they took their hosting appearances last season and decided we really need to scale it back, because
they're not hosts anymore, they're special guests, which Caitlin has actually commented on a podcast being like, yeah, I guess I'm a special guest now. And also to note, part of the Bachelor Nation fan, or like in the ethers of it, Caitlin actually said that Tayshia and the producers planned that moment on the Men's Tell All, and it wasn't something that was like they've been working on for a whole time. It was kind of like a new addition, and so she was supposed to be delivering it to like the teleprompter, but she felt as though it was a little bit impersonal. But she didn't really know, like it was new, so she just was like reading along, and that's why she turned to Tayshia and was like trying to talk to her one-on-one. But like that was all a moment, a beat that was crafted by Tayshia and the producers. What do you think about that?
Like, I really want to like Tayshia and like ride for what she's doing. I understand it's a job, and I agree. Like, again, I don't think she owes us really anything at the end of the day. Like, none of these people really do, because we're all just watching this show. We're all voyeurs into this show. But it, I didn't want to slam it as being disingenuous, but it felt that way. And like to get that information is like, okay, well, you know, that's that. Like, that's how it felt. You know, makes sense. Like that's why it was so awkward too in terms of the interaction between her and Caitlin, because it was just her trying to make it more human and failing, completely failing.
Completely failing.
They should give us nothing there. Nothing.
So the date card is for Brandon. So he gets the first date. And it says, Brandon, let's ride off into the sunset. Before we get into that date, though, we do have a mean 88. Yes, Chantele, I feel like Nate is all actions where Brandon is all words. Exactly. Tamika is agreeing with us. Brandon is scary to me. His feelings are not sustainable. Absolutely. This is similar, like similar to, remember Claire, right? We're just like, she doesn't know this guy well enough to be so obsessed with him, and it wasn't sustainable. And that's what it's just red flags for me for Brandon. Especially because if you go back and even look at the beginning when his entrance, he was already talking like that from the beginning, where I was like, remember we were like, there's no way he gets far. Like he's so fake. Like we didn't believe any of it in the very beginning. And then the fact that he was able to continue on like week after week, I'm still shocked by it, because like first episode, he would have probably been gone for me, you know?
I think he really like shone within the last like 2 weeks or so, like really became this person that we saw like accelerate a lot. And especially the hometown too, that went really well. Like I get the appeal, I get everything, but it's just like the way that Brandon says that the world stops when he's with her, I see that happen to her when she's with Nate. So it like actually just invalidates like so much with Brandon. Like I actually can't even like compare the two. And if anything, I think he's really just starting to unravel. And I think that it was clear to me like he's worried about where he stands. So I think that's why,
because it's not real.
On the cheese even more. Like some people are cheesy, that's fine, be cheesy, like express, like if that's your way of being, like do your thing. But like it felt like he was doing it as a overcompensation because he was fearful of his position, especially with these three, and especially going first, which is not, I don't think, an advantage. But
so he gets Michelle does give him a standing hug job, a standing hooju. And this is Brandon's first time leaving the country. Now, not to travel shame, because I have been fortunate enough to leave the country and go to many different countries in my lifetime so far. But at the age of 27, I had left the country multiple times. And this also maybe leads to my feeling that he's a little bit immature still, because he's never even had that experience. He's never bought a ticket to go somewhere. He's never had to, pack his bags necessarily and, travel and maybe miss his flight and have to stay overnight at an airport. Like, you know what I mean? Like there's some life stuff that it seems like he hasn't done that come along with traveling. That's like traveling with somebody else. Like, even with your family, having had that experience, it just shows me like I don't think that he's ready to be a husband yet to take the lead in these areas because he hasn't even done them on his own yet. So what do you feel about I'm not sure like how your travel history has been, but what do you feel about him never having left the country until being on The Bachelor?
Yeah, I mean, like similarly, I don't want to shame someone for not traveling because I don't want to presume anyone's like economic status or access to anything like that. Obviously, it's varied. But I think more so what's very defining, at least for me in relationships that I've had, is like how do you travel with somebody? And like how does your relationship withstand your ability to go another place with someone? And experience something different with them. It's usually very telling, even if it's a road trip, even if it's, you know, like some type of journey with the person that you're dating. Those are sometimes very make or break because you learn.
I know a lot of relationships that have ended because they decide to go on that European summer vacation and they come back solo.
Yeah. But I suppose none of them have really traveled with Michelle other than to Minnesota. So fair enough. But yeah, definitely like if you are fortunate enough to get to travel, it does open up your perspective on a lot of things. And depending on where you get the chance to go, as different as it is from your own hometown, the more wider your worldview becomes and you just understand it just gives you perspective. So definitely like he's not at fault for not traveling, but you definitely are missing on some expansive experiences and in not having done that for sure.
And this could also be why I feel as though he still seems like he's in high school to me, just because he doesn't seem to have like a worldly understanding of a lot of different things. And so, with like anytime, any type of traveling stuff like that you suggested, whether even if it's within the same country, you do grow and learn a lot of different things. Like when I saw him, like I'm like, does he even have his own apartment? Like I just don't feel as though he's done a lot of life things. He might have his own apartment. He might even own his own place. I don't know. But he seems to me that he's still in living at home, like kind of vibe. He doesn't seem like he's
Oh
he's
yeah.
had some worldly experience. And like I don't even know when Nate say moved from Canada to the States, but like there has been that change, right? There has been like learning about a different culture, has been like he's had to have some sort of experience going back and forth. His family still lives in Canada. So just that alone and having to redefine yourself and start from scratch again somewhere else, even if it's as a teenager or a younger child, like depending on what age he moved, he still had to learn something and grow and expand. And so just right there alone, I do feel as though Nate, even if they're the same age or he's a year older, has a lot more growth life experience.
Yeah. No, definitely.
So how do you feel about him on a horse? I mean, I've been on a horse a few times, but definitely it's not something that I expect everybody to have done. But he's never been on a horse, and
Mhm.
it was kind of funny watching the poor guy.
Yeah, I was like, oh, that horse is moving. I think I always wonder this when they do horse dates. I'm sure we've talked about this before, but like I'm assuming that there's like leading horses outside of the frame of what we're seeing
Yes.
because by what we saw, he was just like, oh, bye. Uh, See you. Good luck to you.
I do think there was one time where I saw Michelle kind of look to her right, so as if there were people like well, I
Mhm.
guess it had been on this side of the screen, and so, but like it was just like they cut really quickly, so it did seem like she was interacting with people that were off screen,
Okay.
um,
Have to.
and yeah, you can't just let this poor guy go on a horse that's like wandering off, like
Yeah, I
not
mean, kudos to him for
safe.
so fearlessly hopping on that saddle too. Like the first time I ever like went horseback riding, and I have not gone many times, but it's almost kind of intimidating initially. And he just kind of was like, "Boop, I'm on this horse now." I was like, "Okay." He does have a zest for life that I do appreciate, or like just like a golden retriever like willingness to do any activity. So I think that that's an endearing quality for sure.
Yes, I mean, I love anybody that's willing to say yes to new circumstances, new situations. So I totally appreciate that he's just hopped upon that horse. Absolutely. But it was just kind of like a little bit of an eye roll. It was like, of course, the horse is going to go wandering off. Like the producers are just so, they need to get some new young blood in that creative team because like it's just kind of tiresome.
Oh
But
yeah.
it was okay. What was I gonna say? I was going to say something about their date, but oh, so what did you think about the fact that he got what I would consider to be a friend zone date?
Mm.
Do you think it was a sexy date?
Uh, I think kind of. I mean, he did get the fireworks, so
Mm.
they tried. Hot tub. There was sexy things happening.
What
I
about the
think,
horse part?
yeah, the horse part. I don't know. That's pretty romantic. I think it can be like you're horseback on the beach. Like that's kind of. I think.
I guess maybe it's not romantic because he's not comfortable on a horse. Because like she was anticipating holding his hands and horseback riding together,
Mhm.
and he was just like off to like, oh. So
Yeah,
maybe that's why I didn't find it to be romantic.
it's true. I mean, I basically have no notes about the horse part, so there, like I have notes about like their conversation at dinner, but I actually feel like maybe across the 3 dates, this was my least favorite.
Me too. I agree. What did you think about the fact that she says that she can see him as her best friend? I feel as though that was like the kiss of death lines for Rodney on that final four date.
Yeah, and this just like I was gonna ask you, and I guess like it comes up more towards the end of the episode at the rose ceremony, so I won't jump to that moment specifically. But I'm just thinking like where's her head at with Brandon for real? Because we know after the hometown, he was the only one that she said that she was falling in love with, right? She verbalized that to him. And that was kind of a very big moment, a very defining moment where we knew Rodney would be leaving because he was maybe the other person that we thought might not make it. And even here, when she's talking to Caitlin, she says that she has no concerns with him. Literally. She's like, I have no concerns with him. And then even when she's talking to him, she says that she feels very safe with him and he makes her heart feel so safe. Do you think it's just because she like knows for certain that he'll ultimately be okay if she breaks up with him? Like, what's the real reason here?
This
Like,
is what I think. So I think that she was giving back Brandon the I love you or I'm falling for you as well, so that she can keep Brandon locked in there. That
mm,
he will be someone solid that she knows is not going to pull a Greg and leave the show or quit pull a Michael A and quit. Like I don't know if she'd seen those episodes, but I think it was for her to know that someone was going to be there no matter what. And if she gives him that little bit, that will affirm for him to want to try harder, push harder, say all the things that need to be said, and that she knows will be there for sure. I think with Joe and Nate, I think she's way more attracted to both of them, can see a life with both of them more than he could see one with Brandon. But there is a little bit more uncertainty with them because they have a little bit more swag, a little bit more machismo. They're both a little bit more reserved with sharing their words. And so she doesn't want to get rid of Brandon for two maybes, or if Rodney was still there, three maybes, and not sure if it's going to work out in the end. So I think that she laid that on with Brandon as insurance policy that somebody will be with her till the end. And we'll talk about it a little bit more later on, but I think that's also the reason why he ended up staying, is
mm.
because he will be easier to break up with than Joe would be later on down the road.
I think that's a really, yeah, insightful take for sure. Like, it's just like he's definitely not going anywhere. And if you
Yeah.
even give him a little bit of that affirmation, like he's good to
locked
go.
in.
Whereas with Joe, you don't really know where his head's at necessarily, or like he's kind of like ghosted her in the past, like blah blah blah. The Nate red flags thing they keep trying to make a thing, even though I think he was a lock regardless. Yeah, that I was like really struggling to understand, but I think your take on that is very, very smart.
Could be possible. I just think that that's what it is, because from what we're seeing, there's no way that she would actually really be considering a life and a family with him. You know what I mean? Like, he just doesn't seem like he's there.
Mm-hmm.
And it just really feels to me like it's just an insurance policy to have somebody that she knows is going to be there. And she says it many times, like, I'm not worried about him. I'm not worried about him. I'm not worried about him. It's great to be in that position to not be worried about somebody, so she could just really invest in her, how she feels about the other people, to be like, okay, can I go all in with Nate? Ooh, okay, if I don't feel like I can, I have somebody that I know is going to be there. And so that's my interpretation of her relationship with Brandon. And honestly, just I don't dislike Brandon. I just don't think he's ready, and I don't think that they're this match made in heaven at all. Like, that's just how I'm feeling when I'm looking at the situation. But they both deserve love. If it's with each other, I wish them both the best. So he says things, you probably wrote down some of these things, like, I want to be with you and hold you. I'm just like the amount of times he said, I want to hold you, just be with you and hold you. It's so, I don't like that. It's so not what I want to hear.
I will always put you first. Till I take my last breath, I will put you first. Like, sir, this isn't your vows.
Oh my God, the vows that he's gonna say at the final two. Oh my God.
I hope she doesn't let him do that. I hope she stops him before we have to see his proposal, because it will be 47 minutes long. And it will be every cliche.
Nope, the producers are like, Michelle, you're gonna have to let him say this whole thing. It's her punishment for like keeping him
He's
around.
gonna unscroll.
Oh yeah, wait. Brandon's heart only beats for Michelle. He doesn't want to be with anyone else. He knew she was the one. Like, really? She's gorgeous, she's smart, she's funny, she's everything. And I can imagine her being the one for a lot of people, but I just don't buy it, Brandon. I'm sorry. Michelle does say that she feels like she is falling in love with him. She says that Brandon is soulmate material. And they do get the fantasy suite card. So is this where I took my little, this is at the dinner portion anyways. I think I took a little picture here. Was it his date?
Tell me you got the sandwich. That was so weird.
Oh, is it a sandwich?
Sandwich. Oh, yeah.
Well, it's like underneath is the date card, and like it's just hoisting up the food there. And I'm like, are you not going to eat that? This might be a better picture.
Of course they're not going to eat it. Yeah, no, that was cracking me up. Just under the charger plate. Love it.
Wait, I was trying to get the actual date card in there, but like it was hard too, though.
And the food doesn't budge.
So it's from Tasha and Caitlin, the date card underneath the plate. If you want to forego, your individual rooms, you can stay with each other in the fantasy suite. So they're going to go and stay there. He keeps on also saying Michelle Ann Young. Michelle Ann Young. Like, he would just say her full name so like at least 2 times that I can think off the top of my head, but it might have even been 4. And I'm like, if somebody was saying to me in a loving way, Chantele Renee Francis, Chantele Renee, I'm just like, shut up. Like, I don't like that at all. What's your middle name? Do you have one?
Yeah, my middle name's Stephanie.
So yeah, if your boyfriend was like Tanya, Stephanie, hold on, what's your last name? I'm just gonna say Philly or Philly. Yeah, I just say Philly because it's just a lot of letters. Would you be into that? if Stephanie was thrown
No,
into the mix to confess his love for you?
I reject my middle name. It doesn't vibe with me, so I don't accept. I don't
You vibe
accept.
with like a Steph, I think a little bit.
Yeah, maybe. I've gotten that before, but like it just never felt like a good personality match for me. I was like, I don't feel like a Stephanie. Like some people, especially when you're in here's more industry talk. No, because I have a longer last name that is like also like very regional to my background, it's not exactly a stage name that really works well. So like part of the move that a lot of actors do if they have names that are like that is they do like their first name, middle name.
Okay.
27 is not cool. That's not a good
No, it's
vibe.
not.
Energy, it doesn't flow. It doesn't sound fresh. It doesn't sound exciting. Like, so I think I've just always kind of been like, no, I definitely feel like a Tanya. I don't feel like a Stephanie. I'll give Steph like a consideration. Because if my name was Stephanie, I think I would definitely be a Steph.
Yes.
But either way, it's not me. It's not me.
So I have to confess that when I was 21, I did have a year of my life where I went by Chantele Renee.
But I
Like
like
on my headshots, like Chantele Renee.
yeah.
Chantele
Chantele Renee's
Renee.
cool. I like that.
But like then I was like, well, then I'm like kind of denouncing like my whole last name. My whole last name is not that like it's not bad. So I was like, let me just go back to my last name and stop being contrived. And then I was like Chantele Renee Francis for a while, and then I was like, no, it's too much. So if I had a guy that I just had been dating for a few weeks, been saying like Michelle and Young, when it's not like he's not proposing or vows, like I don't think I'm into it at
No.
all.
He's just trying to be like, look how much I know you.
When's her birthday? I want to know what her birthday is. What's her sign? What's her rising sign? These are things that I want you to know, Brandon.
Exactly.
So they do get the fireworks while they're in the hot tub. So did you end up looking at these stats? Fireworks on fantasy suite dates? Is there a stat for that?
No, I didn't look it up because I feel like, and somebody mentioned this in the chat too, like it very much seemed like the fireworks were for the reaction of the other two, as
True.
opposed to them feeling like a reflection of their date being so amazing.
The swell.
Yeah. Like, I think it was like, oh, let's get the shot of Joe and Nate arbitrarily walking outside to go look at the fireworks and react.
And you know that they were coaxed into doing that. They're probably just like, yeah, I'm good here. And they're like, actually, why don't you go and take a look at the fireworks?
They looked like, slowly outdoors. They were like, just walked out, like not enthused. I'm like, okay, let's try and reach a bit more.
Okay, so we get to the next morning. Not that it's any of my business, but this is what this episode's about. Coitus or not to coitus? That is the question. Not. You think not?
I would say it was a Goldilocks progression here, or not even a Goldilocks progression, just a progression period. And you can, without assuming whatever sexual activity, you can just tell nothing went down because they're basically fully clothed. They look like they didn't just wake up. And the energy feels not like that. And that's fine. Maybe, I don't want to presume what people's level of comfort is with that. But like, in my opinion, I don't think anything of that nature went down between them at all.
I totally agree, but he does feel happier than he's ever been. And I'm like, really? After this night, it didn't seem that great, to be honest. Like,
hair was like perfect. I was like, no, nothing went down. And they were also like fully clothed, but then also in robes.
And then he goes out and gets her breakfast in bed. And then they start a food fight. And I know how you feel about food fights, but just maybe you can remind all the viewers about your thoughts about food fights.
No. Waste of food, dirty clothes, dirty hair, not spontaneous and fun. And this to me, like the thing with Brandon that she's always had is it's like, oh, we just have like fun and we're so playful and like we laugh. And this just felt so contrived.
Mm-hmm.
Like, why did this even happen? I didn't think that was playful and funny. I just thought it was just ridiculous.
I was just going to be like, no.
He couldn't even drink in the food fight. He ran away in the food fight. You're gonna have a food fight, then you gotta stick it out. He was just worried that she was gonna dominate him in that food fight, and he made a break for it.
So Naboo says the food fight with Brandon isn't cute or funny at all. It's very childish. Like, I can get behind a good food fight. Like I don't have the disdain towards it as you do, but I'm not a Taurus. And also, like, I could see how it could be kind of fun and maybe kind of flirty and maybe a little bit sexy. Maybe not any of that they've ever done on The Bachelor or Bachelor Nation stuff. But I could see how it could be kind of fun at times. But this didn't look fun to me. I would just been like, oh, I'm gonna have to wash my hair now. It smells like eggs. Oh, so annoying.
Waste of an empanada.
Waste of an empanada. Empanadas are delicious. Definitely delicious. Bakery says, yeah, I agree with you. Ladies, Brandon is doing too much good. Too much goddamn slow. Oh, goddamn, slow down. Yes. Just please slow down. I'm not into him. Okay, in the preview for next week, Michelle's dad talks about someone potentially being the jealous type, thinks it's about Brandon. Yes, I do think it's about Brandon. If I look at the shirt that the father is wearing when he's speaking with Brandon, and then when he does his ITM, it seems like the same shirt. So I do feel like it's Brandon. And if this episode is any indication, he is unraveling, as you said, and it's because he doesn't have a real connection with this woman.
Yeah. Nate doesn't seem jealous at all. So I don't think it would be about him. It has to be about Brandon.
Has to be. Yeah, Tamika says, 100% about Brandon. Dabu agrees. Hi, Jelly. Hey, everyone, just had my finals for chemistry. Congratulations. I'm debating whether to watch Survivor tonight. Did not entirely enjoy the season. The twists were too much. Interesting. Well, I'm going to watch the challenge and go live with Fanta at 11. So you could probably do both. You can watch the challenge and then you could watch Survivor. Then you can come hop on with us and talk about the challenge finale.
Are they both finales tonight?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Isn't it annoying?
Oh, wow.
So rude. It's so
much
rude.
is happening in the world.
I know. And then we're going to have like nothing for like a week. And then like new good stuff is starting, which is really fun.
I'm just going to say, not on the Survivor recaps, but just in case anyone cares, I am wholeheartedly Team Ricard. That's all I'm going to say.
Oh, of course you are. Who else would you be rooting for? I mean, maybe Erica, but like she peaked too late. Like it's just, I'm not that impressed with like waiting this long when she could have been out if she didn't have that twist in her favor. But if she is at Poppers, maybe I'll go and make a little appearance there. Maybe I should make you. So she's been having parties at Poppers on Blur. Like every week she's been there. And so like I saw her last post. She's like, thank you guys so much for like allowing me to I don't know, she said host parties here or whatever, come here every week. She said something to that effect. And then I walked past it yesterday and I was like, oh, I should like, if she's there tonight, like I should go by.
Wow.
So I'll let you know if she is there. And maybe at like 11 or 12, like I'll go by and say hi or like something and get you to join me.
Did you know that
it's your house? Say again?
Did you know that Ricard is an Aries?
No, he's a Sag. I
thought he was an Aries.
As far as I know, he's a Sag.
Oh.
I could be wrong, but I thought him and Tiffany were Sages. I don't remember there being any Aries. There's no Aquarius. Nasir is Gemini. Everybody else is like Earth or Water. I think Danny was
you're right.
Taurus.
Well, still fire sign.
Fire's great. That's why we love him.
Anyways, that's my only input. I assume most people agree if they've been watching the show.
Absolutely. Tanya agrees. It's the same storyline every season. Yeah,
they're not even trying to do anything differently now.
please. Okay, I think the fireworks were more for Joe and Nate, and the producers wanted to extract some emotions from them. LOL. Yes.
Yeah, that's what I was.
Yes. Hi, Natalie. Colton Netflix coming out. That's pretty much all we're gonna say about that. Actually, no, I can say one more other thing about it. Apparently, he made a comment being like, Chris Harrison was the only person that like said anything to me and like in Bachelor Nation about when I came out. And then everybody's like, actually, that's not true. So Nick Vial, even though I don't appreciate him, but he does say like finds his DM to Colton when he comes out and was like, "Hey Colton, that's amazing. Like I'm so happy that you're able to like, I don't know, be who you are and feel free, blah blah blah." And I think, did he send him a book, or no, Ben Higgins sent him a book actually. So Ben Higgins was also someone that like was slid into his DMs and like said congratulations, whatever, and gave him a book on what it would be like to, like a friend of his wrote, of coming out in the church. And so like two people right there like definitely said something to him. And I think also, what's her name? Not a fan necessarily, but Ashley I also was like, I said something to him. I said congratulations. So he's already playing this like victim card now, that nobody in Bachelor Nation is giving him the support that he needs except for Chris Harrison. What's the deal? Just give a little rant, please.
I honestly like genuinely can't get into speaking about him because I just have such intense disdain for him, and I'm very wary of the way that things are going. I support people who come out. I think there is obviously a lot that goes into someone who is growing up in a religious household and growing up in a community and playing sports where there's a lot of toxic masculinity. So this has nothing to do with my support of someone coming out under those circumstances, but I just cannot stand him at all. And I just don't care to give him any kind of platform on Netflix or in my life. Like I just
How are you feeling about him going to be a castaway on a celebrity survivor like show?
like I might have to miss the show. Like I actually don't want to endure him on my screen
I
at
know.
all.
I'm so upset that they're like, his publicist is good. Like, how do they get him on all these things? He's like, I want to see what's her name, Jodie Sweetin. Like, I want to see her on this, absolutely, but I don't want Colton to be the celebrity that we're seeing on this show. Like, I don't like, he's so, in my opinion, from what I've seen of his actions, obsessed with celebrity that it seems like he'll do anything. And that's kind of also why I'm just wary about giving him attention, because I'm just not fully sure that his intentions are correct. Like I'm not sure. Like I kind of think that he's just desperate to be famous, and like I think it's unsettling to me.
There are
Anyways,
many queer people who have come out and have, come into their own and, been able to overcome a lot of things that haven't done things like Colton has done. So that's all. That's all I'm going to say about that.
Hundo. Hi, Lily. So Lily said, I think that Brendan was always second after Joe's fantasy suite date. She seemed surprised about how well it went.
Very true.
I mean, maybe she was always going to be second, but I still stand by that she probably likes Joe more than Brandon, but Brandon was a sure thing. You know what I mean? Like, and I think that that's why Brandon stuck around over Joe. I think that she has more of a connection to Joe and Nate over Brandon, but Joe doesn't talk enough. Joe doesn't express anything. She probably likes kissing him, likes being around him, likes unraveling him a bit, but I think that she's more into Joe than Brandon, but kept Brandon instead.
I see what Lily's point is though, where like I think maybe to me, like with Joe's overnight date, he just seemed, and like we can get into it anyways, but he just seemed like so smiley and open and like actually like very at ease in a way that he hasn't been entirely. And I think maybe they were vibing way more of a chill way than she anticipated. Like I think the thing with him was always like, oh well, he's not gonna say, he holds back things, like he's introverted, etc. But like he was very not like that on this date. I actually thought he was very open and like seemed just good. So I think it kind of threw a wrench into it a little bit. Like I think it might have been a little bit more of the prescribed narrative if he just was, you know, how he had been leading up to that. But I think he really kind of came into his own in this date. And I liked that. I liked seeing that side of him. I think definitely made it harder for her than it would have been going into this.
Okay. I can totally get behind that. I can get behind that. So we're saying then that, you know, she liked Joe third, or was always going to be like have him leave in the third place position, but then was more so conflicted by the fact that the date went so well and she wasn't expecting to like Joe more, and then but she still kept him in that third place position because he wasn't in the number one spot. So okay, I can agree with that. I can get behind that. Sold. Before we get fully into Joe's date, because Joe has the second date, we do have Brandon returning, and another awkward moment. Thank you, everybody awkwardly laughing, and Brandon saying like, "I'm not going to go into details, but just like."
Yeah. I loved what he said. Like I think it was in his like to the camera or ITM, and he was just like, "You don't know." Like he didn't want to think about what was happening with the people that were going on the dates with her. The fireworks made him realize people were having connections with her. But he said, "You don't know what you don't know, so why are you going to stress on it? You've made it this far, so just bet on that." Like in reference to himself and his own progress. And I was like, the maturity. So refreshing.
Right? Oh, for someone that's never been in love before, like I think that's a really mature way to handle this mess of a way to find a potential love connection. You know,
It's like a front runner masterclass. Like every opportunity to be like dragged into nonsense, and even when he was involved in the drama in some way, he managed to be articulate and still like always like came back to this internal confidence, never bringing shit up to Michelle about other people, like blah blah blah. I was just like, we love to see it, you know, the growth.
So Joe's date card says we're falling for each other, and they're going to be going on basically a zip line date. Joe does get a standing hooju this time. So standing hooju is when there's no running to mount, but it's just from standing position to legs wrapped around the waist. So I was surprised that the hooju came in here because we did not receive one yet that we've seen this season. And she does call him Minnesota Joe in Mexico. What do you think about?
Like,
Say again?
I said, shout out to Michelle's core strength. Like, to be able
Standing
to
Uju?
a straight vertical jump with no run and flash her legs around. I was like, oh, clearly this is an athlete. Like, that's not easy.
I thought you meant core strength with her like rhyming capabilities with Minnesota
No, like,
Joe.
core, like her abs. Very impressive.
Definitely very impressive. So they're going ziplining. It's his first time ziplining. I don't know if I've asked you this before. Have you been ziplining before?
No, in my mind I was like, have I been? But no, I haven't. I've done like those treetop like where you walk across the whatever. But I've never done zip lining like that. I would love to though. I think that actually does look
very
really
fun. on that same trip that I was talking about in Mexico. So we were also allowed to go on any of the excursions that we offer for free. So after we had a wild night beforehand, we had to like wake up super early to go. We went on like a speedboat, and then we took like these mules that like walked us up the mountain, and then we had to like climb things, and then we had to, the only way down really was to start zip lining. So we went on like 30 zip lines, like zip line this way and like zip line upside down and zip line standing on like a surfboard type thing, like zip line through water. Like it was, well, the one that was upside down was so scary though, because like you can't tell which way is up. And so you're just really just like all the way around. But it's super fun. And then it ended with a vertical dropping water slide.
Wow.
That was the scariest part.
Yeah.
The zip line, fine.
I've been down some water slides that are like really steep drops, and like I'm a petite person. Like I don't like I'm 5'3" and I'm like of a small stature. And those ones where they have such a steep drop, like you literally like rise off of the actual slide.
Yes.
And it's frightening. Like very, very frightening. Like you were like literally like for dear life trying to not die, essentially.
Oh my God,
I think that would scare me, but surprisingly, for someone who doesn't like heights, the idea of ziplining does seem really fun, I guess, because you're strapped in. So
I wanted to find you because like with the friend from the airline that I went with, so we were like, part of it was this like Jeep ride, and it was like really bouncy, whatever, and we're just kind of hungover and just like maybe still drunk, I don't know. And like just seeing her on this bus ride is literally the most, like the funniest thing ever. I'll see if I can find it throughout this podcast. I'm just not sure where do we post it? Somewhere. So I thought this was a fun date, but this was also to me a friend zone kind of date to me. You know, they didn't really have that many times to connect in the earlier part. Like, yes, he was like screaming. She thought he was going to be quiet. And you know, he was definitely being more vocal. I thought it was funny when he was like, "You go first," to ladies first, because he was a little bit scared about doing the zip line. But I enjoyed seeing Joe, like another side of Joe.
I think he really tried to put himself out there more. Like, I think all those things that he was hearing from her, all those things that he was learning about himself, maybe I'm just totally naive, but I think he was really trying to put them into action. And he had jokes, like when they're when they're at the dinner portion, he talks about the zip lining, and she's like, "I don't know, like if you were gonna scream or what you're gonna do." And he's like, "What, do you think I was just gonna be silent?" Like,
I laughed. I did laugh when he did that.
It's funny. It's so cute. So, he does seem like a lovely person.
He needed more time, I think, just to like open up a little bit, because he, you know, we saw his family. His family is not that open and loud and boisterous. Like they're quite reserved and quiet. And so he does need someone to bring that out of him. And she was chipping her way at bringing this out of him. But I just don't think they had enough time together to be able to like really be able to create something. And it also makes sense to me of how he was, maybe the ghosting thing, or didn't message her back. Like he's not really that proactive, we'll say. You know, so I kind of understand him a little bit more, just being like, "Oh, I guess like I didn't message back soon enough. Like I guess that ship sailed." Like it just doesn't really push that hard. So he's so cute.
He did try and let her in. He did try. Like I really enjoyed the portion of this date in the dinner where he talks about how he wants to like be an inspiration to people who have grown up and like been playing in competitive sports, and then like, you know, once you are not able to do that anymore, in his case as a result of an injury, or for many people, like if you're a competitive athlete, like your career is over before you're even like an actual adult sometimes. So
yeah, for sure.
I think that it's like really nice that he wants to be able to facilitate that for others and show people and kind of like be that example and do that. I thought that was like really his way of letting her into something that's clearly very important to him. So I think he really did try, and he really did seem just way more at ease than normal. But what he can't do is compete with Nate, you know, like it's not anything that he did wrong. It's not, you can't compare, right? Like it's just not there in the same way.
It isn't. He's so sweet and cute, though. Some more comments back from the Brandons of it all. So Brandon's a sure thing. Joe, she never got there with exactly. Rodney is her bestie, and Nate is the one, but it scares her how much she really likes him.
Yep.
You're like bang on all accounts, like 100% perfectly accurate to my understanding of an assessment there. Totally agree. So Brandon does too much. I love him, but like the lines are too much. It's not realistic at all. Let's have some chill. Yes, Lily, let's have some chill. It's so uncomfortable. Okay, I think Michelle doesn't want to explain to her parents why Joe is a top 2 after ghosting her. It was clear to me that Joe was going home when Brandon met the parents and Nate met her best friends. I think that I'm going to go back to what Lily just said a couple of comments ago, where, yeah, like I think that maybe Joe wasn't going to be doing that well and was going to go out in the 3rd spot. I can see that even more with this comment here. I don't think the ghosting thing, I don't think she told her parents about that. Like, I don't think that they know that much about how she knows Joe in the past. But I think that Brandon was more of a front runner when the meet the parents option happened than Joe was. And now things have changed a little bit. And that's why she was upset, I think. Okay. Oh my God. Dale's new movie and Claire throwing shade as his acting debut. Did you hear this?
I heard that he's acting.
He's acting. I think he's playing a tennis coach.
He's annoying.
I heard that he's not that bad. All right. No comment is a comment. Unrelated question. Have you seen Real World Homecoming? Hi, Debut. I haven't yet. It's on my list. I'm probably going to catch up with that 1 week that I have nothing to do for the most part. I will catch up on both seasons of the Real World Homecoming, and I might start catching up a little bit, like, or rewatching some of The Amazing Race if I can find where it has a lot of them, because I'm going to cover this new season of The Amazing Race, and I just don't remember some of the old, like, pairs, and so I just want to have like some familiarity, because we're going to do like a cast assessment and maybe talk about our favorite seasons or favorite teams, and I just don't remember any of them. I remember like 5 teams. Are you must be an Amazing Race fan? Yay?
I'm not really. No. There was like maybe a brief period where I watched it, but to be honest, it's never really been part of my roster. Like, obviously I know what the show's about. I understand like the concept. I think it's cool. I think the interesting thing about The Amazing Race for me is that I don't watch it, but it's the show I think I would be the best at.
You'd be so good.
Like, that's the one that I think I could actually do well at, because I can run for days, and like I feel like depending on who's my partner, we could like figure out a lot of shit. If like I was with someone who also was bilingual, then like we might have some advantages as well, because I'm also bilingual, although I'm bilingual in English and Greek, so not really useful unless we go to Greece, but whatever. I think if you know another language, you can understand other languages,
especially in Europe.
Yeah, so I would actually like want to do that show, but I don't really watch that show as much as any of the other ones, strangely enough.
Am I going to pitch me and you to go on The Amazing Race?
Can you run?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I like winning, so I would definitely train. Pardon?
You know how to drive a car? I don't know how to.
I do, and I drive stick.
Okay.
Speak French and a little bit of Spanish. I like math. I like solving puzzles. I'm like,
strategy stuff, just like general.
I don't mind heights.
That's the thing. That's a good thing about The Amazing Race, is like if you can try and like assign the correct person to the challenge and make the right decisions where you need to. And then there's always like equalizers where it's like, oh, there's only this flight that we can all be on or whatever. But Yeah. I don't know why it's never been my thing, but appreciate the show. I also like Won't Starve. Like there's a lot of reasons why I'd rather some other ones in traveling, but
So Lily agrees with you. Yes, Tanya. Like, I think that she was getting bored of him, and then they had the fantasy suite, and she seemed so smitten the morning after. Yes, or the morning up. Yeah, she definitely did. She talks about him being a slice of home, and she says this often, like, I feel like I'm at home, a slice of home. And I was kind of like, the slice of home thing, I think that that's the kiss of death at this point. Cause it's like she's not excited by him anymore. But I do think
yeah.
I agree that she was more smitten with him. I do agree that his goofy side, she was really enjoyed this and liked seeing that come out of him. I think she loved the fact that he mentioned that he got into real estate because he wants to bring families together, and she's looking for that partner that's willing to go and change the world with her. But one thing that she did bring up at the dinner portion was she's high energy and she's like always kind of full on. And he says that, we're opposite, we balance each other out. But I think that she wants a little bit of somebody that can meet her there a little bit more, you know? So I think he's just too chill for her. So chill.
But their morning after seemed like different than the Brandon one.
So did they or did they not, do you think?
I don't know, but I will say he wasn't wearing a shirt.
He wasn't wearing a shirt. That is true. She does describe him as a 1,000-piece puzzle, and she has found all the edges and some pieces in the middle, and she has a few pieces to go, and she loves puzzles. And I
So
was like,
it
I
seemed
don't know if I.
different than the first one. It seemed different than the first one, but it wasn't exactly the next one.
Oh my god, not at all. Anything else about their little dateroo? This is where I wrote though. I'm like, I think the third spot is for Joe. That's where I wrote
Yeah.
that.
I'm a little bit confused about the end of the episode, but we'll get there. Well, actually, I guess you kind of already answered it when I asked you. But anyways, Brandon's move at the end, interesting. In between the dates, though, the whole segment between Nate like saying, "I'm glad to go last because I think that's the best position to be in," and Brandon being like, "No, going first was the best." And it's like, I'm sorry, I disagree. I think going last is absolutely the best place to go.
Absolutely, especially if there's no cocktail party. Of
This is
course,
where
going
you
last.
want to be the last impression. Like it's a very valuable thing to be the last person that has this, and then it doesn't matter what happened in the previous two, like you have that final time with her. So it also shows that, like, I guess this all played out in the order that they showed
It
it.
seemed like it was correct.
Because I know sometimes they would shift it in the past, I guess, when they're
Well, it was
not
before they were making them live together, right? So
so
they could do that. You couldn't tell who was when. But now, if they're commenting on and they want to see these awkward moments, they have to keep it in the order that they give it.
And Brandon's interpreting what Nate is doing as like him not giving enough of his feelings or emotions. But I'm like, he's not giving it to you.
Yes.
You, how he's feeling. He's not giving you any of that because he's not worried about you. Like, you did the same thing when you came back from your date. You didn't give them anything about what was happening. Why? Because one, I think they probably have enough respect for each other to not make it like extremely awkward. And two, he's not here for you. He's here for her. So I don't agree with Brandon's perspective here, unfortunately.
No. I'm gonna comment more on that in 1 second. But before the end of Joe's date, first of all, another kiss of death, I thought. So they have breakfast on the terrace. And then I wrote, I think she lets Joe go. And then she says to him, I just want you to know I can see a future with you. And that was me really feeling as though she doesn't pick him, but she wants him to know that she does, like, this is real. She is really feeling something for him. But I felt like she wanted him to know that there was something real going on. And then when he was leaving, he was going like this. And was it me, or was he saying pesos instead of besos?
I don't know. I didn't notice that.
He's like, pesos, pesos, pesos. And I'm like,
no way, really? I didn't notice that. I must have like skipped that.
I'll try to find that too before the end of this. I thought it was hilarious. So yeah, Joe is back, goes back to the house with the awkward moments with the guys. And this is where I thought it was an amazing little, back and forth between Joe and Nate, because it just showed to me that Brandon seemed like a younger brother and Nate was like the older brother that's like chill and like smooth about it. And this younger brother's like, no, first is the best. And he's like, so you're saying that like I have the least chemistry. I can't remember the word he used exactly, but like you're saying that like I don't have a good relationship with her. And he was just like, no, I don't mean that. And it was just like, clearly Nate is in the right here. And I enjoyed the playfulness of this banter, but there's some people that in the audience have been saying that like they didn't like how Nate was acting in this situation. So what do you have to say about those naysayers or no Nate sayers?
Yeah, it's really interesting. I was like briefly looking at Reddit today, and I think people are doing maybe a little bit too much in regards to Brandon. Like, and I say this as someone who likes the guy, but like people on Reddit were acting like outrageous. Like there was some like conversation on there about like how they think like he would just be like so great at like pleasing his partner, and like some kind of like projection that was going on where I was like, okay, everyone needs to relax a bit. Like this is a little bit too much for me. And like let's just go back to what we're actually getting in the edit. And like it just seems to me like they're fighting so hard to create some kind of conflict in the Nate edit, but then when you see his actual scenes with Michelle, you cannot deny the way she looks at him and the way she is with him is leaps and bounds above everybody else. So they're like clinging to some kind of hope to create some kind of tension. And it's working on some people because they seem to think that he's closed off or has all these red flags and whatnot. And again, I hope I don't eat my words here, but I don't think so. I who knows? So yeah, they're just really trying. They're really trying to create some kind of energy around this being a choice when it's really not a choice. Like it's quite obvious what's going to happen. Like they're trying to act like it's a shocking finale. If she doesn't choose him, I will be shocked. I will be shocked.
Like if she doesn't choose him, then maybe that she's trying to do like a whole like switch and bait thing. Like she chooses him and then they break up and then she gets with Nate after, like, or Joe after, something like that. Because I can't see her completely buying into this relationship with Brandon. I can't see it. It's just, it's not there at all.
And Nate's been the front runner for some time. I mean, arguably since the beginning, but at least there were other people in the mix. Like Joe was in the mix. Like there were some people that like came up and made it a little bit more interesting. But about halfway through, and especially like within the last few weeks, it's just been very obvious. And we thought the biggest thing that would go against him was whatever was going to happen in his hometown date. And when that didn't land in a way that was actually like a concern, you just like, that's where it's going. That's obviously where it's going.
Oh, so obvious. Well, another thing that was so obvious is when Nate gets his date and she pulls up with a large boat. They say it's a catamaran, but I've never seen a catamaran that huge. But it's a giant white boat that she's standing on the front of. And this is the date. Like on Love Island, whoever gets the super yacht date or the helicopter date are going to be the front runners, right? So he's getting the mega yacht date. he is the front runner. I'm surprised that they didn't do a helicopter tour with somebody, because that is usually like, the caliber of like the runner up type date,
Yeah.
but I just thought that this date was leaps and bounds ahead of the caliber of the other dates for the opportunity to have connection and intimacy. And I really felt that, she loves being next to him. Like, she's just like rubbing up against him, and then they're like lying down, and she's kissing him, and like always wanting more kisses. Like, she's so into him. And I don't see her being that into either of the other two men. Now, it could be because she's slightly closing herself off a little bit, because she is respecting her connection that she does have with Nate. So she kind of could be putting up a little mini barrier. So this could be why I'm not seeing this with other people. But like, this was a time where I felt that their connection was so obvious. Like, it was pretty electric, I thought.
I agree. First of all, Nate, boats, orange shorts, iconic. He's always shorts, and this is what I wrote. I wrote, her energy is entirely different around him, and their chemistry is palpable in a way that it is not with the others. To me, they're equally as goofy and playful as she is with Brandon, but it feels less contrived and less like it's trying to be a moment, like the food fight. Like, he is goofy with her, and they are silly, and they do laugh and act like, giggly and have those things, but it doesn't feel like we're kids having ice cream, blah blah. Like, it's like, feels like you're just laughing, and there's like nuance to a relationship. So like, that's what I was taking away from, and this was just through the boat portion. I actually think he did really well throughout this entire date personally, but that was just what was coming to mind when I was watching.
And so Michelle really needs to get some words out of Nate's mouth. And so she mentions that the engagement is a week away, and and she even says, like, in a perfect world, Nate would just say, "I love you" to me. And so that's what she really just wants here. She really just wants Nate to say, "I love you," or "I'm falling in love with you." She wants to hear these particular words. I don't think she needs to, actually, but I think the show is making her need to want to hear this in order to create some sort of drama, because I feel like the relationship she has with Nate, if we didn't have to have the pressure of a ring and like an engagement, like, there would just be no show, and they could just like go and hang out and date for the rest of their life and get married if they want to. So I do think that the show is pushing her to need these words from Nate, but I don't know if she actually completely needs them.
Yeah. And again, it's valid if she wants to, like, she wants it to be him, but we know the moment at the end is the engagement, for her to really just kind of dig to see if he's really going to be able to do that. But I'm like, just because someone's willing to do, like, Rick would have been like, "Will you marry me?" like 3 dates ago. You know what I mean? Like, that doesn't mean that that's what you need. Like, Rodney would have proposed to her like last time. Like, there's like a lot of things that would just happen, but wouldn't you rather it be
real,
like
organic,
realistic?
natural?
Like, yeah, it should kind of be a little bit weird, and like, I get that that's what the show's building towards, but I've never had an issue with someone, even Greg, not being able to like grasp the idea of the engagement fully, or having some misgivings about that, which again, I don't think Nate actually has. He's always just reiterated that he is into her anytime that it's been brought up. So I don't know, but to me, I'm like, oh, I kind of feel like you're a real human if you're not like, I will marry you right now. Like, that's more sketchy to me.
So sketch. Like, why? Like, what do you mean? You don't know me. You don't know what my life is going to be like after this. Like, what? Like, where were you going to be living? We have to, there's a lot of questions to have answered in order for us to like be saying yes to an engagement. So
yeah.
Totally agree. So at the nighttime portion, we finally hear the soundbite where she said that she's worried that she's feeling more for Nate than Nate is for her. I think that's prompted. I don't think she actually feels that. I really feel like she knows that he's into her. But maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think so. I really don't. So one thing he does say though, that he doesn't have the answers, but like he kind of like does this kind of roundabout thing explaining how he's feeling, whatever. And I was like, oh, Nate, if you're going to try to say how you feel, you better just say how you feel, or it sounds bad. So I was worried for him for a moment. But he does come around and say, I trust that I am falling in love with you. And I'm like, yes, Nate. Yes, he said it.
This whole conversation was like that meme, you know, that meme that's like, they really had us in the first half. I'm not going to lie. Like, it was like that, where I was like, where are we going with this, Nate? Where are we going? But then he brought it around and it made a lot of sense.
Call him out and was like, well, falling in love and being in love and engaged are all different things. And that's when he comes in with that line. I was like, yes, Nate.
And most importantly, he's like, I'm not running away from this. I think that was maybe like her biggest fear is, am I going to like put everything out there for this person and then they're just not going to be able to receive that and like go away. And he specifically was like, I'm not running away from this. I'm choosing to believe him. Again, maybe I'm naive, whatever. But I felt like, to me, that says a lot. And that was very direct a statement.
And so she's most definitely falling in love with him as well. And he made her cry. And, you know, the fantasy suite card comes along. And I wrote down at this point, I feel like their conversation was real. And like I've been saying it over and over again, that's what I'm not feeling with Brandon's confessions of love here. It just seems like lines, and this seemed real. So, you know, yeah, he didn't immediately say like, I'm falling for you, and he said something a little bit roundabout to the effect of like, you know, I'm going on with the journey and we don't know where we are going to be like in the future. So I'm living in the moment. And I was like, oh boy, like I agree with you, but like, it's not the thing to say on these shows. But then coming around to having the moment where he does say, I am falling in love with you. I'm not running away. I'm falling in love with you too. I felt it was two people actually saying to each other for the first time how they felt about each other. And I believed it. So I could just be Boo Boo the fool, but I believe this.
I'm right there with you. And also, if you like, Brandon presents an opportunity where like, you know exactly what you're going to get if you choose him. This is someone that's going to be devoted to you, and this is someone that's going to tell you how much they love you, and this is what that's going to be. And that's safe, right? It provides a sense of safety. You know exactly what you're going to get with that. But, you know, 5, 10, 15 years down the road, when that, you know, beautiful fairy tale reaction isn't the only thing that's holding your relationship together. Do you want to be with the person who presented that safe choice, or do you want to be with that person who presented maybe a bit more of a challenge, but showcases how you can maybe navigate that in the future? Like, there has to be some sense of like overcoming something, or something. Like, not every relationship, even the best ones that have so much chemistry and you feel so great, whatever, like there's a honeymoon period for a reason. No matter how strong your connection is, eventually that runs out. And then what happens? You need to be able to navigate like the waters of life with that person. And I think in her experience with Nate here gives me more confidence that she'd be able to do that with him than with Brandon. It's 100%. Not to say that it's not a lovely thing, and I totally get why that option is so like appealing and safe. But I think there needs to be more there. Like, for long term, there needs to be more there.
Absolutely. I totally agree. So, you know, at the fantasy suite, they do have, I think they had a hot tub as well, I believe.
Yeah, it was all the same room.
I don't know if it was the same room, because I don't think Joe had a hot tub.
Designed the same.
I think it's maybe on the same side of the hotel, but maybe a different room. They just changed the sheets in the new room. It's terrible. Right. But he does say to her again, I'm falling in love with you, ... I am in love with you. She says, I am definitely in love with you too. And then in her ITM, I think it was, she says, this is what a soulmate feels like. Or maybe she said it to him, I'm not even sure, but soulmate feels like.
Soulmate feels like, yeah. This was
And
loved up. They were loved up the next morning. And like,
they must have done something because she was into him the next morning.
yeah, her hair wasn't done. Like it seemed more morning after-y than the other ones did. But
like she's touching him and blah, blah, blah. Like she was just wanted to be like all over him. And I was like, that's a real vibe-in relationship, you know what I mean? And like people that had like a really deep connection that might have deepened it even more. Yeah, and then they had a mariachi band. I don't know if it was in the night or in the morning, but I was like, whoa, so that's some points for me there for the mariachi band. You get some, I'll give you some firework points for Brandon. Mariachi, and then I wrote down again, I'm like, oh, Joe is going. Like, he didn't get fireworks, he didn't get the hot tub, he didn't get the mariachi band. Joe is no mo, I think. So back with Joe and Brandon when Nate returns. And that's where I wrote, is Brandon the jealous one? Because he started like acting a little bit jealous.
The scene was so funny. We vibed out.
We vibed out. So downplaying it.
He looked terrified. His eyes were like so wide and he looked so concerned. I want to use vibed out for so many things now.
We just vibed out.
It was so funny. We vibed out.
So now we're at the rose ceremony, and Michelle does say, the three of you have changed my life. And she's about to start giving out one of two roses. And Brandon steps forward and asks if she thinks that he could talk to her. What do you feel about this move? I'm with Nate here and thinking it's a Hail Mary play because he was feeling insecure about his number one position. What are your thoughts?
This is where I was confused because I wasn't necessarily thinking as clearly as you were thinking that Joe was done. Like, I actually wasn't. I was thinking, oh, that date went better than I thought, in the sense that, like, he seemed great during that it actually makes this a really hard choice, where I think she would have thought it would have been him just because he wouldn't be able to get there before. So do you think Brandon doing this is what really solidified her going in the direction that you mentioned earlier? Like just being like, okay, I know this is like the safe thing. Like, I know Brandon's already there for me. And like, I know that if I make this decision, like exactly what I'm going to get, because he didn't say anything really to her in this interaction. Like, he said, not to scare you, I promise. Michelle, when I told you I put you first, I put you first. When I told you I love you and that you were becoming my best friend, I truly mean that I'll be here for you regardless of what happens to me. I just want to look you in the eye to make sure the woman I love more than anything is okay. Huh?
The woman I love more than anything is okay. I think that he might have saved himself. I wouldn't be surprised if she was leaning more towards Joe after the date with Joe, and now, Brandon's a faraway memory, and then Nate having this fabulous date, well, you can assume had a decent date with Nate, and I think that maybe Joe was creeping in there, and maybe she went back to Brandon and was like, you know what? No, this is safe. No, this is right. Maybe he did convince her to go back to him.
But in doing this, he basically also convinced her, like, not to choose him in the end. That was what was so strange about this play, is like, I think it bought him
a week
that entry into the final two, but it also basically tells her, without saying it directly, if you don't choose me, I'll
care about you,
respect you and care about you, which I don't think is like a smart move
No,
strategically.
giving someone an out, like I always say when I'm talking about like Big Brother and stuff like that, like don't say like, oh, no hard feelings. Hard feelings make it difficult for people to make these decisions. So maybe they won't do them. But he definitely gave her an out moving forward that he will understand if she doesn't choose him in the end. So I agree with you. I think that he could have maybe bought himself this week, or maybe it didn't matter, but it just made her think more about the fact that she is getting rid of Joe. But it definitely sealed his fate to Nate. To Nate
Definitely.
at the end. So Michelle is crying. I wrote down the woman that I love more than anything. Like, really? More than anything? More than skateboarding? Like,
More than
on,
anything.
please. So Nate thinks it's a Hail Mary. What do you feel about seeing Nate in, like, you could see him in the background when like they're having the conversation. You could just see him standing in the distance. I was like, wow, these producers.
I know they kept putting him in focus and then focus back on her, focus back on him, focus back on her. I was like, thank you. We know.
So of course, though, at this rose ceremony, it's Nate that gets the first rose, and Brandon gets the second rose. Joe, Minnesota Joe, is going home. Now, tell me if you caught this. So when Nate goes up first to get his rose, she gave him a play it cool, be smooth type look. It was kind of like a like don't be so obvious that like I'm obsessed with you kind of look. And I was, because like he walked up with all this swagger, and she just like trying to signal to him to like play it cool. Did you notice that moment?
I
Or do you
didn't
agree
notice
with it?
I didn't notice that, but if I'm him and she
I think
doesn't,
she's told him in the fantasy suite that he's the one.
I think whatever happened in the fantasy suite, like smoothed over any of the uncertainty that was there. Which we know they exchanged I love yous. I'm sure there was probably a conversation of some kind there that like really for him solidified his position if he wasn't already aware. But I think like even like doubly over, if you're him and then she doesn't keep Joe, who I think, I don't know, I feel like Nate's got like a pretty good like handle on like what's going on in terms of his observations. You got to think that's probably your biggest competition, really, if you've watched in those group dates her interactions with him and whatever. When it's not Joe, you can almost certainly feel confident that you're in the top position.
Absolutely.
Right?
Like he doesn't,
Unless
I don't think that he feels competition with Brandon, especially with Brandon being so desperate to like say what last words before she makes her decision. Like I think that just even for Nate made to be like, oh, you were worried. I'm not worried. And like that was basically how I would be taking it if I was Nate, and be like, oh, you showed that you are shaking in your boots here, bud.
Yeah.
Definitely showed his cards of being nervous. So I don't know why Tayshia and Caitlin needed to come in though, like to say goodbye to Joe, but they did. They're getting their paycheck here. And Joe is gone now. She is crying when she goes and walks him out. Just telling him again that she did see a future with him. And he's like, I know it might not look like I'm upset, but I am upset. Like, yeah. Typical Joe. Not actually being able to cry in that moment or be able to express himself fully in that moment. But I appreciated her goodbye to him. I think it would have been harder for her to say goodbye to him in the final two position. And I do think that there was a little bit of saving him because she knows it's going to be Nate. Maybe that's why she made the change in the end. You know, maybe she decided to stay with Brandon because Brandon gave her that out that you mentioned, and she literally would be breaking Joe's heart completely if she took him to the final two. So
yeah, I just kind of wish she gave us a little, I guess also him, because he seemed like kind of confused too, or shocked, as he said.
Yeah, he thought she was her person.
A little bit more logic from her about why she made that decision. Like even just to hear a little bit about what went into that, because I feel like it happened and then we didn't really get much else other than that it was hard for her. But I was kind of curious to know what ultimately brought her to make that difficult decision.
I agree with you. I don't think she said exactly why, but what I gathered was that the other relationships had just moved a little bit faster and she could see them getting there a little bit sooner than she could with Joe. And it's not, and she did reiterate saying that I can see a future with you. I can see it, but I see one next week with Nate, basically. And maybe in a year with you, Joe.
Yeah,
So
that's true.
I think it's just the timing, personally.
Yeah.
And so, yes, Michelle's crying. Oh, that's where Nate was in the background, or was it in both? I can't remember now.
It's when she
But
was saying, yeah, and then she kneeled down and cried.
oh, so sad. So it's going to be a live 3-hour season finale. And there's a shocking conclusion that we'd never expect. What's this shocking conclusion?
I actually have no idea.
Will it be shocking?
I don't think so.
Like, is it she's gonna like get rid of? Maybe she gets rid of both guys and doesn't get engaged to either of them.
Maybe, I don't know, maybe something explosive happens after her family talks to them. I don't know.
Jamie comes back. Martin comes back.
I would be really surprised if she doesn't end up with Nate. I hope she ends up with Nate, and I'm riding for them. And I hope that love is real and that happens. I don't know how they're going to drag this out for 3
I
hours.
think an hour will be after the final rose, so there'll be that.
Yeah, but even 2 hours.
Are we going to be talking to Clayton about his season?
Ugh. Hopefully not. So EBD, but that's my hopes. I really hope that's how it works out for her and that she gets that like happy ending. I think she's been a great Bachelorette. We're lucky that we got this season, thankfully.
Definitely.
Because last season was not it. So
not at all. I honestly, I enjoy this entire season. There wasn't, other than some of the men, there wasn't any problematic moments really, with Michelle. Like I really I respect her takes on things. I support any decisions that she makes. And I really enjoyed going on this journey with her. So I would be shocked if she chose Brandon, just for the fact that I've been on this journey with her and I just don't see that with him mm-hmm. for her. So that would be the most shocking possible. But I agree with you. I really enjoy this season. It's been the best Bachelorette season in the last 2 years, I guess. Who was before Tasha and Claire's season? Was it Hannah Brown?
Oh God, yeah, I think you're right. Lest we forget that mess. Sorry to all the Hannah Brown fans.
That's the name of her book, anyways, isn't it? So
that's this mess. Yeah. I would say this has been like the best Bachelorette season probably for me since Rachel Lindsay.
I agree. So loved it. I really enjoyed it. I've been loving talking to you, obviously, Tanya, about it, and everybody here in the chat. So let's just catch up on a couple of these comments before we say goodbye till next week. Jelly Donut wants a Survivor comment. So I promise it's the last off-topic statement. LOL, but I read somewhere that the jury gets to vote someone out at final 3, and it will be a final 2. There's no way pros would agree to this twist. That's insane. No.
That's rude.
I mean, brutal. But then it's just going to be a blowout, most likely. It'll be a 7-1 or 8-1 or 8-0 kind of vote,
What's the visor woman's name? Heather, is that her name? The
blonde woman?
Yeah, like the one who's obviously not going to win.
Yeah, so she's going to be final. She gets 0 votes.
Though I am curious if she somehow makes it to final jury, just strictly over the fact that she'll never win, like how horribly her answers are going to go when grilled. Like there's no case she can make for winning.
Well, she was saying that one of her moves was like a chess move, and I was like, oh wow, okay, she speaks highly of like some of her game decisions, so it will be interesting.
Okay, sure.
So doesn't the Amazing Race Canada only go to like one international country? I've seen them do a bunch of different things. They've done all of only Canada. They've gone to some other countries. So it's been a mix. I wouldn't say it's only one international country, but they do spend most of it in Canada.
Canadian versions are always a mixed bag.
Less budget.
Sometimes you can really kick it, and like Big Brother Canada, great. Big Brother, or sorry, Bachelorette Canada,
Not great.
You know, like
Bachelor in Paradise Canada, it's good.
right? Yeah. So,
I think it's always with the budget, though. When you can tell what the budget is, that's when you can see that Canada doesn't have as much money as the States at all.
Yeah.
Tamika loves The Amazing Race. So do I. I don't need 3 hours of Bachelorette finale. Well, I'll probably start it late and then just cut out all the commercials. So it won't be that long. I've always said Nate was perfect mix. He ain't boring like Joe. Can be, but he's not obsessive like Brandon. Right in the middle. Yeah, he is just right. Exactly, Tanya. I'm not into giving it to the other men and the audience. He's not supposed to. I don't remember what that's about.
Nate just like keeping his feelings to
himself. Yeah. Hi, just me. So do you think Brandon thought he was going home when he stopped the rose ceremony? I think he had doubt.
That's what I thought. Because it was just such a random move.
I think he was just like scared that like, oh, maybe like all the smack talk that Nate was doing was probably getting to his head and he was getting worried. All these guys have pros and cons. It is very weird that people are acting like if she chooses Nate, that's the worst choice, when if she likes him the most, we can't argue with that. Exactly. I adore them. Absolutely. Me too. I don't know why she's not allowed to go with who she feels the best with. And if that doesn't end up being a lifelong relationship, that is a love relationship she wants to explore.
People in this franchise have certainly been much more forgiving of other people's decisions, including
like Brad Womack. He didn't choose anyone, and then they made him the Bachelor again.
I think people are just like blown away by the fact that like this 6'7" hot, like cool
6'8"
guy could also 6'8" hot, cool guy could also just be like the best choice, and like that could be a thing. Like, I understand. It does seem too good to be true in many ways. But if that's clearly what we're witnessing be her best connection, then I hope that it works out for her.
Ooh, Miss T. Joy says I can honestly see her with Brandon.
I could not ever more than Nate, but I was with this until this week. I really was like, no, I don't see it.
That chemistry and their kissing. Wow.
They do have the best kissing chemistry. For sure.
Sometimes when you have been hurt a lot, you choose the guy that loves you more so that your heart doesn't get broken again. I could see that.
That's what I mean. It's not a bad choice. It's just a safer choice.
Do you think that strong chemistry automatically translates to love?
No, but I do think that for me personally, that element needs to be at play in any relationship that I've had that's been like very serious.
And because it allows you to want to maybe get into something deeper with them, right? Like the chemistry in my opinion, needs to be there in order for me to want to explore something more. Because if it's not there, it's kind of like, okay, well, maybe we're just friends and maybe we'll grow into something. But like if I'm looking for a romantic relationship, I think that chemistry is very important, especially in the beginning.
It can't just be chemistry, but like it's definitely a huge part of
the beginning.
How you become attracted to somebody.
Nate is realistic and he always acknowledges that he doesn't have all the answers and this is new territory for him. That's why I believe he's sincere. Exactly. He's not hiding from the fact that he doesn't know. I was slowly getting on board with Brandon. However, this episode turned me off a little. He was saying all the right things, but it just came off as too needy and disingenuous. Exactly. Their morning after was so cute, and him stopping to look at her and say he loves her before kissing her again. Oh, I love them. I don't care. I don't care either, Lily. I love them too. Nate was, well, my second pick. I picked Clayton thinking that he was going to give us something because he was already named the Bachelor. And then Nate was my second pick. But I would have rather picked him first, not picked Clayton at all. And then I would have probably picked Joe in there. Actually, I would have probably had Joe and Nate because I had the second and third spot, I think. Or no, I can't remember. But I would have picked both of them.
Strategic choice, though. Like, you got to go with the fact that we knew that he was going to be the Bachelor, so we were hoping that he was going to give us something. He gave us nothing. That's not your fault.
They tried so hard to make Nate look so bad this episode and make us think that Brandon has a shot, but it's clear that Michelle wants Nate. It's super clear. Super duper clear. I think that he was confident he was going home and he just wanted to tell her how he feels in case he couldn't do it if she didn't give him the rose. I mean, he would have been able to say it after the fact. So I think that I think it would have been better for him long term if he hadn't have said anything and just saw how the chips fell. Because like you already said, like it makes it easier for her now to let go of him in the final 2 spot. Brandon pulling Michelle aside at the rose ceremony was kind of manipulative and he was trying to come off as a nice guy, but I agree with Nate. I didn't like that. Brandon did that, shaking my head. See, that wasn't a strong front runner move. It was a weak, like not even underdog, just like it was just like a grasping at straws kind of move.
It's a Hail Mary. I think that assessment that Nate had was really spot on.
He has nothing else, nothing to lose. I think that Michelle's going to have a rough road with Nate and his family. I don't think so.
I mean, possibly, but not everyone has a family that's like, you know, that like nuclear, like American family that's all like love each other and blah, blah, blah. Like, I think I feel kind of defensive about this because like I experienced this personally where I'm like, I don't have very traditional like relationship with my family, and that's like something that's like challenging in my life. And then like, you know, my partner has a very traditional family relationship and like they're all very close, and I think that that's really great, but I don't think it's as much of a deal breaker as people may think it could be. Like, not everyone's family situation is ideal, unfortunately. It sucks, but like that's facts are facts.
And I think that Michelle is great at getting along with people, that I think that she would get along with them. And I feel like with his family that they were just kind of looking out for Nate for the fact that he and for her. He said that Charles did say looking out for you too here because like he's never been in this relationship, so I don't want you to get hurt. So I think that their family, I think it's very possible for her to be somebody that can help bring their family together because she could potentially be that glue. And like, look, that one moment when she comes into the picture, they're having these loving moments that never happened before. So who's to say that more of those won't happen when you're like, okay, it's Christmas, like, let's get everybody together and like inviting them to things and bringing this familial attitude that he's never experienced before into his life. So I yes, it's possible that they could have a rough time, but I would like to believe that because she's had such a strong family upbringing that she might be able to help mend theirs a little bit and just change the dynamic a bit.
Oh, sorry, I just see a follow-up comment from Just Me Madison here. It says, I wasn't referring to the family dynamics. I was referring to how much they're discouraging the relationship. That I did not know. Is that like something that's happening? Like, I wasn't aware that they were actually like vocally discouraging.
So this is outside of like what we see on the show? Like this has been in like social media?
I don't know.
I haven't heard of this. Okay, if that's the case, then that's
different. Yeah,
that's different.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love Michelle. She's such a breath of fresh air and she killed every look. Yes, she looked gorgeous all the time. Well, that's pretty much it for all the comments. Thank you again, Tanya. Is there any last ones here that I need to say? Oh, okay, sorry. We'll just be kind of clarify here, I wasn't referring to the family dynamic, I was referring to how much they were discouraging the relationship. So Just Me, was that in social media? His mom told her that he wasn't ready. She told him that she doesn't believe he's in love. She doesn't know him in that way, though. They've never had these conversations before, so I don't know if I trust her opinion on her son that she hasn't lived with in a good few years, that has never brought a person home to see her. So I don't know if she has the best judgment, but
yeah, I
we'll
guess
see.
it depends, right? Like my friends probably know me better than my family. Actually, I know for a fact my friends know me better than my family. So like if everything was based on what I think my family thinks I would do, I don't know that that's
Accurate.
necessarily accurate to my like actual experience, but I see what you're saying. I also think it's probably like fair for any family in this situation to have a healthy degree of skepticism because this show is ridiculous. I think again, I'm like maybe more like concerned about people that are like, sure, yay, we love this. Like I think it's probably like realistic to be like, oh, we've never seen this and now he's ready to get engaged on a television show. That's something that you would naturally be pretty skeptical of, I think. So fair enough.
Just Me also says the first meeting they were not very welcoming. I mean, I've seen a lot of families not being very welcoming, and also we got to remember that it is edited. We thought from that family visit that Nate in his ITM was crying over how poorly it went, and he was crying for how amazing that what he found in that moment with his stepfather. So I definitely can see that they could be, franken biting and cutting things up and showing things that would maybe lean in that narrative, so it wouldn't be so obvious that he was a front runner, even though me and you have been saying it like pretty much the whole time, like it's him. I think that they're trying to make it not seem completely obvious, and so they could be showing particular moments where the family has been displeased, but could have been followed by after be like, oh my God, like you've convinced us, we love you, Michelle. Like, and they never showed that. Like, who knows? So I can agree that possibly, but I can also agree that they could be showing us what they want us to believe. It just feels like they haven't been open to him being in love all his life. And I don't think he cares about their opinion fully, to be honest. I don't think that he, to me, seems like the type of man that is only going to make a decision based on what his family, who's never had a say in his love life before, feel about it. What do you think? And that'll be our last little questione.
I don't know, right? Like, I don't know. Like, he could very well just be a known fuckboy. Like, I have no idea. I don't know.
If he's a known fuckboy, then
like
I'll stop. I won't cover Clayton season. No, I'm just
I get the perspective. I think it's fair, but I think for me watching, I believe him. So
yeah,
if that comes back to bite me, then I will wholeheartedly accept. But
Just Me hopes it goes well and that they are wrong. They just seem resistant, and we know in-laws can be difficult. I just don't see Nate as somebody that puts that much weight on what his family thinks of his decisions. Because if he did, he wouldn't be covered in tattoos. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think he cares that much. And I wouldn't be surprised if maybe that they're having this opinion because maybe he was a little bit like cavalier when he was growing up and this like, meeting girls here and meeting girls there. And that's why his stepfather was like, don't bring a girls home, probably to avoid him getting a girl pregnant. You know what I mean? Like, I'm sure that like maybe that's the vibe that he had, this tall black kid, like probably getting all the girls. And so that's probably all that they know of him. But from what I've seen of him and they've showed me on the show, despite their efforts on making me believe that he's a bad guy, I think that he's in it for Michelle and he's going to try to make it work. Final thought. Do you have one final thought before we say sayonara?
That's it.
That's it.
Next week.
Woo! And you guys just subscribe, hang out with us next week. We're trying to figure out what we're going to do. We might do like a late night live after the episode if we're feeling up to it, or we might do something on Wednesday earlier on in the afternoon. We haven't fully decided yet, but we will be going live to talk about this next week sometime. I'm happy to see how it concludes. Please still be together. Make me believe in love. Please. Please, Nate, don't let me down. I'm riding for you right now. I'm going against like Nick Vial for you right now. Like, please.
Yeah,
please,
for real.
please.
Hopefully.
Thanks everybody in the chat. You guys are a watch party. I could maybe stream it on Twitch or something. Let me think about it. We'll see. All right, talk to you guys later. Bye.